What's up, Vetters? Patrick here with Vetted. I am in Sedona on the road. Might hear my dogs walking around. My apologies. We are recording here for the documentary in Sedona. It's been wonderful. A lot of great stuff, to be honest with you. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised of what I've partook in. Is that the word? Partaken in? And yeah, it's been very exciting. There's still way more to come. Let's just get to this video. What do you say? Diana Pasulka recently went on the New York Times. They have I guess, an interview show that they put on. An opinion piece from the New York Times. And Diana Pasulka sat down, and it was very, very good. Because these aren't the type of interviews she normally does, right? Typically, this is someone very neutral in the topic. So it was actually a great conversation. But there was even some pushback. Take a look at this.
Okay. So I have a
public
question.
Information is...
I have a question for you. So
yes,
the people who are the whistleblowers, are these not also people who are part of our government and employed by our government?
They are.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
So what's the difference then? So we have...
Okay,
I agree,
that's fair.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, wait.
Vetters, please hit that like button. That really helps out the videos. And of course, if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button, y'all. I'm trying to get to 100,000 subscribers before the end of the year. All right, roll clip number 1.
I want to stick with your biography for a minute, right? You mentioned earlier that once you started researching this subject, you started getting communications from people inside the government or inside the aerospace industry. What form did those communications take?
Correct. Okay, so when I started the research for American Cosmic, I said, okay, this is going to be pretty easy because we have the internet here and we have all of this data, and it's pretty obvious what's happening. And about a year after I started to do this, I would get emails, and oftentimes people that I knew would reach out to me and say, so-and-so got a hold of me. This is a person who works at this company. There's space-related research. And they would like to talk with you. Are you comfortable talking with them? People who emailed me, again, were from legitimate aerospace companies and were interested in seeing the research that I did about angel contact events and things like that. So then I began to share information with these people. And, I had read Jacques Vallée's books and so forth and other people's books, and I recognized that I might be identified as a person who could spread disinformation. So that was always on my mind as well as I was, working with these people. At this point, these people didn't care if I was going to ever publish anything again. They were just interested in what I had done, and they wanted to look at it. And they had actual jobs doing this work. So that was eye-opening for me.
All right, so this next part is the interviewer here is going to focus on one particular part that Diana Pasulka said, which is they were doing these kind of jobs, quote, right? So it's actually a really good question because he digs into what exactly does Diana Pasulka mean by these people were, doing this, right? They were part of the UFO squad. You know what I mean? So it's a really good question because it's something normally people would just pass over, right? In a normal, UFO podcast interview, the interviewer is not going to stop to ask this question. It's really good. But Diana Pasulka's answer is also really good. Again, this is a really good conversation.
Without obviously betraying confidences, when you say they had jobs doing this kind of work, what does that mean? They were employed by NASA or Northrop Grumman or someone like that to research aerial phenomena? Like their job was director of aerial phenomena research?
I mean,
what do we mean?
They wouldn't have a title like that. So at this point, this is pre-2017 when Leslie Kean and Blumenthal, the New York Times article.
Pre-2017, again, for the audience, is when the New York Times published stories about military pilots encountering aerial phenomena, and it sort of opened an era of new debate about these things. But sorry, go on.
So yes, that's right. So this is pre-2017. This is around 2013 to about that time period. And they have, various titles. They have quote unquote day jobs as, say, a mission controller at Cape Canaveral, things like that. And they would say this, and almost all of them called it this. They said my hobby job. They would call it their hobby. And so they would some of them would go to places that they called crash retrieval places, and they would look for debris from UFO crashes. And then they would, they would find scientists who would be able to look into the debris and find out if it was anomalous. So this is the type of research that they were doing. Some of them worked with astronauts, trained them, and so forth. So it was various types of people and jobs.
But their hobby jobs, as you call them, this is off the books work. The U.S. government is not paying them to do the research you're describing. They're doing it on their own.
I don't actually know that, but that's what they, implied.
That's what they mostly said. They mostly said, this is something I'm interested in because
they made a differentiation. Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So as you can see, this is a really good conversation between these two. And, this idea of the people that Diana was speaking to, was it, were they talking to her about UFOs and the phenomena through a work scenario, right? It's work-based, or it's private-based, right? Personal-based, right? And then using their title and credentials to sort of get meetings and have contacts and maybe even infer that this is government work, quote unquote. But really it's just, a side hobby, right? Which all of us have, right? So, and does that necessarily take away from the importance or the validity of it, right? It's another question to ask. So let's continue the conversation. Here's the next part.
Okay, so go on. So you had this kind of contact with them. This is all before the Times reported on these things. So how did that develop to the point where you took the idea that there's an objective reality here seriously?
Even after writing American Cosmic, I was I still was not a non-believer. And I wouldn't say I wasn't a disbeliever, but I was on, I was open to being convinced. Okay, I was open to being convinced. And there were a lot of scientists around me. I was in embedded research. Okay, so I was part of their community, and still am, actually. And so, this afforded me an insight into their lives, and their lives were basically dictated by this type of study. So some of them had constrained lives. And what I mean by that is that, they had security clearances and things like that. So in a sense, they were most likely part of intelligence communities too.
And when they would reach out to you, they would send you an email? Like
sometimes it was an introduction. So after the first few emails with certain of them, I got an introduction from an experiencer to a person who I met at a conference, which was an American Academy of Religion conference. And, so I met this person publicly, like in a public space, because, I wasn't used to talking to people like this for most of my life. And anyway, it was... I got an insight into the lives that they had led, and I became convinced that the government was definitely doing something related to this. Whether or not it was actual UFOs, I honestly don't know, but I know that it's something that is definitely these people are involved in doing, and it's part of a secret program. And that was something that came out in the 2017 New York Times article.
That there's secret.
These programs are, there's a government program studying this. UFOs,
right.
UAP.
Right. But the official line of all these entities has been the U.S. government doesn't have, a secret program that, for instance, has a lot of material that we think is from other planets or anything like that. Right?
Yes.
There's no...
Correct.
So what you're talking about is, in effect, private information. You have private reasons to think that the U.S. government effort goes beyond just collecting data and videos and trying to resolve anomalies.
I mean, this has been stated by people who are affiliated with the military. So it's not necessarily private information to me or to people who have been watching the news.
All right, so this next part. All right, so please leave your comments down below. Let's continue with the video. So this next part um, is where it kind of gets a little spicy, all right, between the interviewer and Diana. Now, respectfully so, might I add. And in fact, to some extent, Diana may like this kind of interview, right? Gets a little pushback, gets to, really, because once you get a little pushback, you get a little more passionate, and then you really want to make your point. So you really think about it. It's kind of a little fire starter, right? Essentially. So Diana, to some extent, may appreciate this. But let's dig into this, and you can see where the disagreement is from Diana and the point that the interviewer is trying to make.
My understanding is that there's a set of people, including former Defense Department officials, various people who have said, one, consistently, there's a bunch of aerial phenomena that we don't understand, that our pilots see, that we have video of. Some of the video has been released. Some of it, as far as I can tell from my own private conversations, is classified. But that's sort of publicly stated, that there's some things we see in the sky that we don't understand. Then we have also publicly stated that, look, the U.S. government, we research this stuff. We've set up sort of dedicated groups that are researching it. But their public statements are limited to, we're trying to resolve anomalies. We don't know anything about secret programs. And then you have, starting after 2017, a set of whistleblowers or would-be whistleblowers who have come forward, who have testified before Congress, who have written books saying, actually, the U.S. government, people in the U.S. government know more about this than the public statements are letting on. There are secret programs. There are, materials held by defense contractors that people think come from other worlds, these kind of things, right? So I'm just trying to distinguish between those two layers. There's sort of
okay. So I have a
public
question.
information
Then.
is,
I have
go
a
ahead.
question for you. So
Yes.
the people who are the whistleblowers, are these not also people who are part of our government and employed by our government?
No, they are.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
So what's the difference then? So we have.
Okay.
I agree,
no, that's fair.
Yeah. I agree with you. Well, wait.
Diana's about to make a really good point here in response to what the interviewer is bringing up. And I think it's something we can all relate to, and that is the, confusion around this topic, right? Just for your average everyday person. Forget just being a whistleblower or someone coming out that works for the government that has information on this or wants to get involved or whatever, right? Just your average everyday person like you, like me, right? The confusion around this topic, it can stop us in our tracks, right? It can dissuade us from getting too deep into things. It can dissuade us from even wanting to know more information about it, right? Take a look.
Yeah, I have a question for you. So
yes,
the people who are the whistleblowers, are these not also people who are part of our government and employed by our government?
No, they are.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
So what's the difference then? So we have.
Okay.
I agree,
no, that's fair.
Yeah. I agree with you. Well, wait. So we have. This is what's confusing, and I think we should be rightly confused here, because I believe that this confusion keeps people from wanting to do the research, because you have the government, right? You have the whistleblowers who are working for the government, and people who have written the books, like Lou Elizondo had been working for the government in one of these programs, says this is still happening. And we also have people like Tim Gallaudet, who's an rear admiral. You have Colonel Carl Nell stating that, there's no doubt that this is happening, that aliens exist, or, that this phenomena exists, and we're studying it. So you have those people coming out, and then you have another part of the government who's coming out and basically denying this. So it's very confusing to a person who wants clarity. And as for me, I try to stay out of it. So I'm not on any side. I'm watching this happen, just like you are, and just like other people are. And, I might have more insight into what's going on, because I know several of these people on both sides, both on the part where people are basically saying it's all, not real. I know those people, and I know the people who are saying that it's real. And it's definitely something that's not transparent.
It's definitely not transparent.
All right, y'all. Hope you enjoyed today's video. I'm going to leave a link down below to the New York Times video interview. Again, it's really, really good and well worth watching the whole thing. It's only about an hour long. And this is one I highly recommend watching. Diana does a great job, and so does the interviewer. It's a great conversation. So again, link down below in the description. Go check it out. I will be reporting on all the stuff we're doing here in Sedona coming up. Let's see, I sat down and did some remote viewing, something called blooming. I got some ham radios set to a particular signal. I reached out to a particular entity. I don't want to get too into it. I did a lot of things. Okay, I did some sort of like medical viewing of sorts, like remote viewing, but for medical issues on a person. I don't know, a lot of different stuff. It was really, really fun. Did a bunch of sky watching, have a lot more coming up. I'm about to do some spoon bending today, amongst other things. And there's just so much more planned. So really excited. So anyway, all right, y'all. We'll see you on the next video. Remember, every day's a gift, y'all. Peace.